This is DJJohnny at JDM FM, and today I'm continuing my history of Warrington. You remember that I did all the way around Sankey and Penketh that way earlier on, and it followed on with Monk's Hall, a little bit down the river. Well, today I'm at Bank Quay. I promised Bank Quay a while back, and here it is now. This is Bank Quay. It's quite an industrial area, so not as pretty as most places, but nonetheless, lots of industrial heritage and lots of history to chat about. Let's go and have a look at it. So this is Bank Quay. Bank Quay is actually on the edge of the river. This is the River Mersey, where we've got Liverpool in that direction, and it meanders round lots of looping bends and everything, and eventually, when it forms with the Irwell later on, goes to Manchester. Bank Quay is actually this side of the river around here, all the way around here. It didn't used to be industrial like this. It used to be lovely fields going up all the way up in a bank going up to town. And in fact, that's where the name came from, because originally, about the 16th century, the plots of land on a land survey were named as bank fields, which then subsequently became Bank Quay, because it's a bank going all the way up to Warrington Town Centre. And then as time moved on, and as wharfs became built around these areas here, once the river was navigable, it became Bank Quay, Bank Quay. And that's as it is today. It has remained for many, many years. Bank Quay is a really industrial part of the town, the most industrial part of the town that there is. And there's been loads and loads of history, loads of industrial work going on, factories and the like, all around this area. And what I'm going to do in this video is to try and pick out some of them, perhaps not all of them because there's just too many to cover, but some of them to have a discussion about the sort of history that's around here. So Warrington has been the town of many industries for over 300 years. Started in cottage industries around the town, and then has eventually been built up as the Industrial Revolution continued. You can see today along the banks, along this bank here, around Bank Quay, around the quay itself, there's lots of industries still here. Some of them are not working anymore. This tower behind me used to be Fairclough's flour mill. That's disappeared. We'll talk about that in a later video. But further around, we used to have Crossfields, also disappeared and now become PQ corporations. And further around still is now Lever Brothers, which is still there today. Further round, there's other activities where other factories have been built and knocked down or started again. And these videos are all going to be part of the story of Bank Quay. So Bank Quay has been the centre of industry around Warrington for over 300 years. But how did it all start? Well, it was Thomas Patten, who had a copper smelting factory just around there in the 1600s, who wanted to get his raw products easily to his new factory. The problem was that when the boats came from Liverpool down there, all the way down there, all the way through to his quayside here, that they kept floundering because the routes, it was a tortuous path on the Mersey because the sandbanks and all sorts of other things, and he needed to make a route which was safe for boats to be able to come down here without sinking. So what he did is he put buoys and markers and beacons along the route to tell the captains the safe journey through. And that was really successful, making the River Mersey navigable between Runcorn and Bank Quay. So Thomas Patten Senior could now get the raw products all the way down from Liverpool to his factory in Bank Quay, and the finished goods could then be transported back to Liverpool and then far out beyond the seas. This new waterway was so successful that they wanted to then extend it all the way through to Manchester in that direction, so that boats could go from Liverpool in that direction to Manchester in that direction. And that formed the Mersey and Irwell Navigation Company. So it was Thomas Patten who owned most of the land around here. Most of Bank Quay was owned by him, and that's why he became the main person who got involved in planning it all. And this is Thomas Patten Senior. He was born in 1686 and died in 1736. This is the man responsible for making the River Mersey navigable between Runcorn and Bank Quay. And later he helped out to make it navigable between Warrington and Manchester through the Irwell and Mersey navigation system. And it meant that boats could travel all the way from Liverpool to Manchester and back, trading goods back and to, and also to the rest of the world. Amazing! In addition, he's the man who set up the copper foundry in the first place at Bank Quay. He really was an entrepreneur, and he was a massive businessman, made lots and lots of wealth for the family. And at Thomas Patten Senior's copper smelting factory on Bank Quay, they used to make all sorts of copper products for use in this country and also abroad. But there is a dark side to the story, because they used to make copper manillas or bangles to trade slaves in Africa. And they also used to make huge copper pans to distill rum or to boil sugar on the sugar plantations in the West Indies. However, this did make lots of income and lots of money for the family, so they could go on and prosper to other things in the future when the slave trade died out. But dearie me, a sad time. And this is what Warrington used to look like in 1772, as painted by Daniel Dombevand on this beautiful oil painting. It's actually in Warrington Museum, if you get the chance to go and see it, well worth a visit. The picture is actually the very, very first map or landscape of Warrington in this area. You can see in the very middle of the picture the Holy Trinity Church, which is still there today, although it's a slightly different tower. You can see over to my right shoulder the cone-shaped chimneys of Bank Quay Glassworks, and next to it Thomas Patten's Copper Works with his boats in the river, either bringing ore in or taking finished products out. You can also see Bank Hall there. Bank Hall as it was in those days, which was the home of Thomas Patten Jr. What an amazing place it was. A beautiful, beautiful town, and how different it is nowadays. And you can see as time's marched on how many chimneys and factories there were in the Bank Quay area. It was probably the largest concentration of industry in the whole of Warrington. There was all sorts of industries associated with Bank Quay area. There was copper smelting, there was glass works, there was soap factories, there was pottery, chemicals, cotton, iron and steel, shipbuilding, and even flour milling. A real massive amount of industry in this area. And these videos, or this video I'm doing now, is hopefully going to cover some of those aspects. But it was the Patten family who made the money from this, and they then eventually decided to build Bank Hall up in the upper reaches of Warrington, over the beautiful countryside. Let's go and look at Bank Hall. And this is Bank Hall. Well, it's Warrington Town Hall actually. A beautiful, beautiful Georgian building built by Thomas Patten Jr. So it's the son of the guy who originally had the copper works. The architect was James Gibbs. He was also the architect who built St Martin le Field Church at Trafalgar Square and other famous places. He built this in the year 1750. Such a beautiful, beautiful place. And the fascinating thing about this particular building is it's built on copper. Copper? Well, it's actually built on copper slag from the smelting factory which Thomas Patten used to own. Blinking heck, can you imagine? And in fact, if you go down into the cellars, you can actually still see the copper slag blocks which the whole hall has been built on. Amazing! So I'm just at the back of the town hall. This is, as was used to be called, Bank Hall, and here the grounds at the back used to be lots of fields and parkland. Now Warrington Crown Court is there. But something special happened here on the 15th of June 1864 when Lancashire Cricket Club played their very first match. Amazing! This was actually the home of Warrington Cricket Club, which was founded in 1837. Now, Lord Winmarleigh, who used to live in the big house here, he decided to let them use all their land for the cricket matches, but he charged them £16 a year. And in 1873, it was Colonel Wilson Patten, or Lord Winmarleigh, who sold the property to Warrington Borough Council. Now, Colonel Wilson Patten was actually the grandson of Thomas Patten, who built the place in the first place. Amazing! So Lord Winmarleigh gave the building and also all the grounds to Warrington Borough Council for a small fee, which is really good of him. Thank you, Lord Winmarleigh. And a nice gesture was that when Warrington Borough Council did acquire the town hall, they decided to call the road, in fact the road just opposite there, which is through the gates over there, Winmarleigh Street. And then at the far end of it, it's Wilson Patten Street. So he's got two names and two different roads. Amazing. It's a beautiful, beautiful building with surrounding fields. Now the fields which are around here are all called Bank Park now, and this Bank Park over here was the very first public park in Warrington. And I'm just here at the Golden Gates of Warrington, the beautiful, beautiful Golden Gates, which have now been done up again from my previous video I did a couple of years ago, and they are back to the former glory. In fact, I think they're actually better than they ever were. Fantastic. The gates and our beautiful, beautiful town hall make a fabulous backdrop to a lovely little town. So that's the end of my first video on Bank Quay. Jeepers, can't believe how many things there are to talk about. Anyway, this particular video we've included the where the Mersey was made navigable by Thomas Patten Senior. We've also seen about his copper works, and we've found out a little bit about his family and how they were able to build this beautiful hall behind us, Bank Hall, which is now the town hall. Amazing. We've also found out a little bit more about cricket. There's probably about 6 videos in this series, so watch this space for future ones. Anyway, this is DJ Johnny at JDM FM, and whatever you're doing, hope you have a fabulous time, and see you again very soon. Bye.